Cormac Smith, good friend of Ukraine, good friend of mine, ex-advisor of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, is with us with this very studio. Can you believe in that? Hello, Cormac. Hello.
Henry, hello. It's very nice to see you again.
Likewise, Sam. Let's just start with the heavy one, like Kharkiv operation, Kursk operation. They were successful and well prepared by Ukraine without informing our partners and allies. And now, when we can't do it and actually use Western weapons to end this war with Ukrainian victory and ask the United States and Europe for the allowance to do so, they just procrastinate, if you will, or maybe even deliberately. So Russia can simply move their air bases deeper inside its territory. So does the West really want Ukraine to win? That's my question.
This is the golden question, and it's always been my golden question. I think I can say that in Britain, we certainly want Ukraine to win. There has been a fear of mine all along that there was a great fear in Washington, in Berlin, and in some other Western capitals of a Ukrainian victory and of a Russian defeat. A very good Ukrainian friend of mine said to me recently, the problem is there are people in the West who can imagine Ukraine being defeated. They cannot imagine Russia being defeated. We need to start imagining Russia being defeated, get over the fear of that, and prepare for it.
Well, I mean, imagination is a good thing, but we have weapons. Well, UK is way more decisive, you're right, and has broken a logjam, as you put it, just by the way. So is it done yet? Can we finally use British, is it Storm Shadow, isn't it?
It's Storm Shadow is the British weapon. And, it seems no, we haven't broken the logjam yet. And yet, yes, Henry, I will remind viewers that Britain has been to the forefront of breaking logjams all the time. First at the very beginning of this war, we started flying in huge amounts of ATACMS anti-tank, lightweight anti-tank weapons that were quite possibly, along with the American Javelin, it's got to be said, responsible for saving Kyiv. It was the Brits a year later who broke the logjam on modern battle tanks when we gave just 14, but that encouraged the Americans to give, at the time, commit 31 Abrams, and that eventually got the Germans to sign off on the export licenses for the Leopard tank. I've got to say, I still do not think the Ukrainians have a sufficient modern battle tanks for their wants. And of course, it was again the Brits 15 months ago now who broke the logjam with long-range artillery, with the provision of the Storm Shadow cruise missile, which has a range, I believe, of 250 miles, 300 miles, up to 500 kilometers. Now, at the time, I was interviewed by BBC News Channel, and I was asked all the same questions, was because Russia was rattling the saber and making threats and saying that this would be a red line. And with every red line that Russia has set down, they backed down. The thing at the time, 15 months ago, when we first gave Storm Shadow, was that was only to be used inside Ukraine's 1991 borders. And of course, as we know, the critical thing at the moment is Ukraine is looking for the permissions to use the Storm Shadow, but also the American ATACMS,
Yep.
which is a similar ground-launched long-range cruise missile, with a similar range, to attack Russian military, not civilian, military targets
Legit.
inside Russia. Now, that will
Mm.
do two things. It will destroy the airfields and the launch pads from where these murderous precision missiles are being launched against Ukrainian civilian targets on an almost daily basis, and or it will drive those It will drive those bases back out of range of Ukrainian cities. Now, what's happening at the moment, we don't completely know. There was a summit on Friday in Washington, D.C.,
True.
between
Right.
Joe Biden and Keir Starmer, the new British Prime Minister. And it's really important, if anybody is not aware, to realize there is a new government in London at the moment. It's a Labour government where the Tories, the Conservatives, have been in power for the last 14 years. And the one thing we know is that under the Conservatives, Britain has been 100% behind Ukraine. Now, all of the indications that we ever had were that there was no distance at all between the Conservatives and Labour in terms of their commitment to Ukraine. And indeed, I think shortly after Keir Starmer was elected Prime Minister, this was the one thing that he said they had always agreed on. They had been 100% in lockstep. So it seems very much as if it is the Americans who are not only refusing to give permission for the use of their ATACMs, but they are also holding Britain back from giving long-range permission for deep strikes inside Russia. Again, I emphasize on military targets for Storm Shadow. Now, most of us were expecting and hoping for a historic press announcement to come out of the summit on Friday. We didn't get it, but we were also told there was not a no, and we are told it is something they are still working on. And we heard Joe Biden's one of his spokesmen say, I believe it was on Saturday on CNN, I saw it, that in the last 4 months as president, that Joe Biden would ensure that Ukraine was put in a position to defeat Russia. These are fine words. Um, my own view, and I'll say three things now. My own view is I suspect Washington, D.C. of appeasement. I think they are fearful of giving this permission for probably two reasons. One reason is they fear escalation, and quite honestly, with all of the evidence that we have had to date, and both former senior military men and diplomats, far more experienced than myself, are saying that Putin will not, regardless of his threats, will not revert to nuclear escalation, which is what the West seems to fear, or what Washington D.C. seems to fear. The truth is, in terms of Russia's own nuclear doctrine, they have had plenty of opportunities to use nuclear weapons within their own nuclear doctrine, not least the recent very exciting Ukrainian invasion of Russia with the incursion into Kursk, which, as you know, is continuing to go from strength to strength. So, this was another major red line crossed, and the bully in the Kremlin backing down. The other issue, I'll just say, I think, is there is obviously a very, very divisive election underway in the United
Indeed.
States at the moment. The result of that is on a knife edge. If Trump were to get a second term in the White House, I have no doubt this would be not only very bad news for Ukraine, it would be very bad news for Europe. He has said many times, and his former senior defense advisor, John Bolton, has said that he most likely would pull the United States out of NATO. So I think this is probably playing on the minds of the Biden administration as well. What I would turn to is, at the moment, I would very, very much hope that if the Americans and if Biden cannot come to allowing Ukraine to do this sooner or later, I would like to see
Cormac,
Britain go it alone
right.
and effectively ignore America and say, we are allowing the Ukrainians to use Storm Shadow to attack these crucial military bases and launch
Well,
airfields and launch pads
pardon
inside
me
Russia.
for interrupting you, Cormac, but this allowance
No,
is.
sorry, I talked a lot. I
Yeah,
talked a lot. I'm sorry,
I
Henry.
love to I love to hear your voice. That's the first thing. Then the things you say are also very nice and smart. So I'm just like a bit hypnotized. But I'm just forced to stop you at the moment because the thing is with this allowance, it's like the passport, the password. I'm sorry. So they can give that allowance. They can take it back just as well. As simple as that. So the thing is, my last question, if you can answer in a very short way, if you can, try to please. What do you think will happen if we will strike anyway? This is a provocative question. I know. And this is a kind of speculation. I know that too. But what happens if Ukraine just acts just the way as we did in Kursk and in Kharkiv? What if we strike and just, wipe these air bases off the face of the earth? What happens then? And, West can.
Are you saying without? Are you saying without getting the American and the British permission
Yep.
first? Well, I do not believe that we will do that because I think, and from my understanding and from senior diplomats who I know and who are close personal friends and who I speak to on a regular basis, I think Ukraine simply would not risk losing the support of the West. But if I can answer that question a different way, if I can imagine that the question you asked me
Exactly.
was, what if the permission is given tomorrow and Ukraine strikes and wipes those air bases off the face of the earth? What will happen? What will happen will many Ukrainian lives will be saved. It will take the pressure off Ukrainian cities and Ukrainians' power infrastructure coming into the winter, and it will be an absolute hammer blow. If I can say my greatest fear at the moment, I feel that I really feel that Putin is under huge pressure. He has lost over 600,000 troops since the 24th of February 2022. And to put that in context for everyone, the USSR lost just 15,000 in 10 years in Afghanistan. His economy is not doing well, and he is now facing the the nuclear option for him, which is having to conscript the sons of the middle classes from Moscow and St. Petersburg. So if I can finish on this, I have always believed that if we give Ukraine the weapons they need, not only, as Alexei Reznikov said before in 2021, would they do their own fighting, they'll do their own fighting and winning, and they will win. My great fear is that, when somebody is down, and you're in a fight, I'm afraid you fight dirty, you put the boot in. And that boot is Storm Shadow and Atacams. We in the West, I greatly fear, risk snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Now is the time to go in hard on Russia with everything we have. Yes, this may bring about the downfall of Putin and maybe even the breakup of the Russian Federation. This is not something we should fear because the alternative is much worse. It's something that we must prepare for in every way that we can. But first and foremost, Russia must be defeated. And to do that, this decision to allow them use the Atacams and the Storm Shadow is absolutely vital. I think Olaf Scholz with Taurus is a
Well,
lost cause, I have to say.
amen to that. What can I add to this? Thank you so very much, Mr. Smith. Thank you for what you did for Ukraine, for what you're doing for Ukraine right now, and for your experience and for your time. Hope to talk to you very soon.
It's a great pleasure to join you, Henry.
Likewise. Likewise.
Slava Ukraini.
Heroям slava. Cormac Smith, former special advisor to the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, was in this very studio. Can you believe that or not? Well, that was it. Thanks for watching me, Enrique, and UATV English. We did our best to deliver the hard truth in easy terms, I hope. Please like, subscribe, and comment. In return, your voice matters as it helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Please stay safe and tune for more. See you soon. Goodbye.